What's up everyone? In today's video, I'm transforming DC superheroes and villains into medieval fantasy versions of themselves. I have 20 minifigures to get through, so let's jump into it. First off, we have the leader of the Justice League himself, Superman. I'm using the original Superman body, but I've switched the arms to red. He has the legs from the Series 13 King, as well as his cape, which is bigger than regular, to give him more of a royal castle look. He's using Bard the Bowman's head from The Hobbit, Grima Wormtongue's hair, and these red armored shoulder pads from Ninjago. I think his beard and longer hair also help to give him more of a medieval castle look than his usual self. Next up, we have Crusader Batman, who's fitted with silver armor as well as this sword from Harry Potter. His helmet is from the Green Lantern and Space Batman set. His breastplate is from the Series 9 Heroic Knight, his legs from a different knight, and his arms are metallic silver, and his cape is dark blue. Having all the parts in silver really helped to make him look like a medieval knight version of Batman, which works surprisingly well. To finish off the core trio, we have Wonder Woman, who like Batman, is decked out in a suit of plated armor. I used Haldyr's torso and legs, and I used Thorin's crown for her tiara, which is one of my favorite part usages of this entire series. To mix in some of the blue from Wonder Woman's original color scheme, I gave her Martian Manhunter's cape. That sword in gold is from Brickforge. Overall, I think she turned out really well, and since she's already Amazonian, it's not that hard to imagine Wonder Woman fitting in as a medieval warrior. This is my version of Green Lantern. He's using the original Green Lantern headpiece, but it's obscured by this cool rogue hood. Dwalin's armored torso from the Lonely Mountain set works surprisingly well, especially with those dark green hands, and Dwalin's translucent green axe is a perfect weapon for Green Lantern as well. As you can see, he also has a medieval version of the Green Lantern itself. His legs are from the Series 15 Frightening Knight, and that short dark green cape is from the Weathertop version of Frodo. Green Lantern is another one of my favorites for this series. If you're liking the video so far, be sure to like it and subscribe, as it helps me know what kind of content to make. If this video does well, I'll transform the Avengers next. Moving on, we have Cyborg, who at first I thought was going to be nearly impossible to get right for a medieval setting, but I think he ended up coming together decently. He's using Sam Wilson's hair, this armor piece from the Ninjago Hands of Time line, and Ultron's legs to give him an armored but still robotic look to stay true to his original character. I also gave him this mace from the Frightening Knight and a sword since Cyborg is known for his heavy-duty weapons. I also like how his head sits down into his armor a bit, further giving him the look of being a cyborg. For our first villain, we have the Joker. He's an absolute essential for a series like this, but I think he's the weakest of this entire series. His torso is from the Series 14 Witch, and his legs are from the Series 13 Disco Diva and this Rockstar, which is an odd combo, but I think it works because of this chain printing. For his cape and collar, I used 2 copies of the Series 12 Wizards so that the stars wouldn't show. Like I said, this is the worst minifigure for today, and in hindsight, a medieval Joker using Nexo Knight's Jestro as a foundation would have been far better and more fitting. For another essential hero, we have Aquaman. I'm using the Jason Momoa legs and the torso from the Aquaman from the collectible minifigure series because I think those still work well. His face is from an Imperial officer and his hair is from old Luke Skywalker. To give him a castle look, I gave him this gold helmet, which is another piece from Brick Warriors. This is probably the character I had to alter the least, just because Aquaman already looks like a hero who could fit in a medieval theme. To throw in another villain, we have Lex Luthor, who is another quite plain minifigure, but in a way that's fitting for the character. His most notable piece is this ruffled neck collar, originally from Shakespeare, giving him a royal and pompous appearance that's fitting for an arrogant and rich character like Lex Luthor. Additionally, he has Professor McGonagall's torso and legs, but I switched out the arms for purple ones, to stay in line with his traditional color scheme. For accessories, he has some pieces of kryptonite. Next up, we have a character that's probably at its historic peak in popularity right now, Black Adam, who surprisingly has never been given a LEGO minifigure, despite LEGO releasing an entire movie dedicated to Shazam in 2020, and DC just a few weeks ago releasing the Black Adam movie. With the current state of LEGO DC, it really makes me wonder if we'll ever see a Black Adam minifigure. Back to the custom. He's using this common black hairpiece, the head from this Jurassic World guard, some golden shoulder pads, and Thorin's armored torso from the Battle of Five Armies. Even though there's no logo of course, I like that the lines on the armor are zigzagged to maybe hint at some of the original Black Adam lightning theming. His black and gold cape is originally Batman's from this Batcave set. For LEGO never having made this character to begin with, I think this medieval version looks surprisingly decent. For this series, I couldn't help but make a couple more versions of Batman, particularly one that had a black color scheme, so I've made these two. The one with black robes is intended to be more stealthy and uses the torso and legs from the Mouth of Sauron minifigure. The third iteration has black plated armor from Keely the Dwarf and also this really old shoulder pad armor piece, and I actually don't know where it came from because it's been in my collection for over 20 years. Keely's armor actually has really cool gauntlet printing on the arms as well, and those legs, which are from Batman, work surprisingly well because they look like chainmail armor. For the Bruce Wayne face, I'm using Jango Fett's. While I'm at it, Batman wouldn't be complete without his sidekick Robin, so I've made him as well. Peter Pan's torso and legs work surprisingly well for this minifigure, with only the hands being switched out for bright green ones. Additionally, Robin has an old green cape from Quidditch Draco Malfoy and a dark green hood. For accessories, I've given him these two elf daggers, which released in the Hobbit theme. For another Batman villain, we have Poison Ivy, who was a bit of a challenge to make into a medieval minifigure, but here's what my thinking was. I went ahead and made her an all green version by using Gamora's face and switched out her arms as well, and gave her some green vine pieces. LEGO has released several Poison Ivy variants, but surprisingly not one in all green, in spite of her regularly appearing that way in the comics and shows. I figured that this style would be appropriate because in fantasy lore and castle stories, knights often encounter beings like forest nymphs that grow out of trees and plants and things like that. Moving on to another core member of the Justice League, we have Flash. I used the Jay Garrick helmet, since that is based off of the original Hermes helmet from Greek mythology. He has King Dane's plated armor torso, but I made it sleeveless, hopefully to indicate that he's going for speed. He's using the armored leg piece from minifigures like Theoden and Aemir. Another supervillain for today's lineup is Darkseid, another character LEGO has never released as a minifigure, albeit he was released as a big figure back in 2015. So for this minifigure version, I found that Gorr's head from Thor Love and Thunder makes a surprisingly good Darkseid face, albeit I wish he wasn't smiling. Darkseid isn't much of a smiler. To get around this, I gave him this lower helmet piece, which surprisingly has only ever released with the General Magmar minifigure from Nexo Knights in spite of it being a useful castle piece. To bulk him up, I gave him this armor piece from Exoforce, which has a perfect place on the front of it for this red piece to match Darkseid's original style from the comics. He's also using this torso and leg piece from one of the 2010 Dragon Knights. If you want a castle version of Darkseid's full helmet look, you can also use this helmet piece. Next in our lineup is Bane, who I themed to look like a medieval executioner rather than a wrestler. He's using the Shadow Guard hood and a headpiece from Scooby-Doo. I gave him these western legs that I thought continued the lines from the torso print, and he's carrying a huge axe to carry out his executions. For another minifigure that I thought would be a real challenge, we have the Martian Manhunter. He's crowned with the helmet from the Witch King. I left his original blue collar piece, but gave him Kingsley's split blue robes, which I think make him look like some kind of space alien wizard. To top off that look, I gave him this staff, and the leg piece from King Aragorn does a nice job of continuing his blue and red color scheme. He's another one of my favorites for this series. He's not a superhero, but I think anyone could respect Alfred getting a spot in today's lineup. To give him an old style look, I gave him this neck collar piece originally from Penguin that I imagine is some kind of white fox fur or something like that. He's also using this torso piece that I believe is from LEGO Pirates, and his legs are from Percival Graves from the Harry Potter theme. For our second to last minifigure, we have Mr. Freeze, who I've turned into an evil ice wizard apothecary medieval scientist kind of character. For accessories, he has some vials and beakers as well as ice powers. He's using Vitruvius's hair and Sensei Wu's beard, and Dumbledore's light blue torso and robes are perfect for giving Mr. Freeze a cold appearance that is fitting for a medieval fantasy setting. For our final minifigure, we have Green Arrow, another hero that you barely even have to alter to transfer into a medieval setting. LEGO has released a couple variants based on the technologically advanced version of the character, but the one that appeared in the LEGO Batman movie would probably be able to fit in here without any changes. However, I don't have that one and wanted to make my own anyway, so this is what I came up with. I used this Robin Hood style hat with a dark green plume. I used this headpiece from this rebel soldier, some dark green shoulder pads and a quiver, and his legs and torso are from Tauriel from The Hobbit. And that is our total of 20 minifigures for today's series. I think most of them turned out alright. alright, but there were some weak links along the way. If I had to pick the 3 weakest, I'd have to go with the Joker, who's easily the worst, and then probably Bane, Poison Ivy, and Alfred. Some of my favorites are Crusader, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern. Doing this mashup was a lot of fun, and if this video does well, I'd like to continue it in the future. I imagine the next logical episode would be the Avengers or Star Wars, but if you have other ideas and opinions, let me know in the comments. And until next time, see you later.